This conference will now be recorded.
So, in today's class, we are going to start it with our OOPS ALV. So, ALV is displaying over on a container. So, we have to design the container. So, when we are working on your OOPS ALV, uh, we need to have a container. In that we will display the ALV. So this container width and length, this container width and length, we can fix it how much we want. So for example, let's take I have a screen. I have a screen. So like this, I have a screen. In this screen, I want to have only this area to be your container. And I can go ahead and add one more container like this. So how many containers you want and however you want, you can design your ALV. So like this, you can able to do it, or you can keep the container, one more container over here and one more container over here. Like this, we can able to do how many ALVs we want, or how you want to showcase your report output in the form of your OOPS ALV. You can able to do that. We can able to do that. That's the main advantage of your OOPS ALV. That's the main advantage of your OOPS ALV. So we will be displaying. So now when we are displaying this we will be calling it as your UI element. When we are displaying, so this container we will be calling it as UI element. Even in WebDyn Pro on your web screen, so whatever you are going to design, so we will be having a container. In that container we will be going to place our things which we need to display, so in a same way, this container we will be calling it as our UI element. UI element. So in this, so the first and the foremost is, so you will be having a screen in SAP everywhere. When you are displaying the output, or even for your selection screen or everything, you will be having a screen. On that screen you will be designing, you will be adding your container. Inside your container we will display the required data. Whatever the data we want, we will be going and displaying over there. So that's what we will be doing it over here. So the screen, and this is our container, this is our ALV. So what are the advantages? So the foremost advantage is we can have n number of events. So we can have n number of events. There are so many actions that you can able to perform on your ALV report. Whereas in your traditional ABAP, like reuse ALV grid display, you will be having only 17 actions. So what are those? That we have seen already in your reuse ALV events get. So in that method, we are going in that function module, we will be going to have the events that we are going to perform on your reuse ALV grid display. But over here, we have a number of events that are available, so or else you can also design your own custom event also. That flexibility is available, so which will give you a flexibility to develop the ALV with various scenarios. Any kind of scenario you can go ahead and do it. We can display multiple reports. So even in your reuse ALV also, we can display multiple reports via your block list ALV. You can able to display multiple reports, but those reports will be coming one after the other. So like this, that will come. So how it will come? It will show you the first report. It will show you the first report, and later on it will show you your second report, like this. So in reuse ALV grid display, this is possible. But over in your OOPS, however you want, how much size you want, wherever you want, you can go ahead and place your report on your screen. Wherever you want, you can go ahead and place that report on the screen. So that is one more advantage when we go ahead with your OOPS ALV. So that's what we can able to set up the size of the container, which is not possible. That was I mentioned. So this container, I want this much size. This container, I want this much size. This container, I want this much size. Like this, you can able to fix your sizes of your container too. We can also place the UI elements like your checkboxes, radio buttons, everything on your same screen. On your same screen, you can able to do it. So what are the different classes we are going to do to approach this ALV? To do this ALV, the first and the foremost is CL underscore GUI underscore ALV grid. So it is used to display the ALV. So like your use ALV grid display, you have your function module, right? In the same way, you will be having a class called as CL underscore GUI underscore ALV. So this class we will be using to display the ALV. In that, we will be having a method called as set table for your first display. So you have to call this method. We need to call this method and we need to pass our internal table along with our container. So in order, so this is what. So when you go ahead and see, this is your screen, this is your container, and this is your ALV grid. So in this area, I want to populate my ALV. To populate this, we will be going and using this. We will be going and using this CL underscore GI underscore ALV grid. So to create this container, so we will be using a class called as CL underscore GI underscore custom container. CL underscore GI underscore custom container. So which is used to create a container on your output screen. So the first and the foremost step is when we are working on your OOPS ABAP, the first and the foremost step is, what is our first step? When we are working on OOPS ALV, when we are working on the OOPS ALV, firstly, we need to create a screen, output screen, and in that we need to write the logic in PBO and PAI. So this we have already seen on your module pool programming. So the process before output and process after input. Then we need to call the container. We need to call the container. Sorry, we need to create the container. We need to create the container, or we will need to adopt, we need to place the container, and in that container we need to call the ALV. So this is the step we have to perform when you are working on your ALV. When you are working on your ALVs, these are the steps that you have to perform. If you know these 4 steps, then you are very much good. So these 4 steps you have to remember. So the next one. So when we are working on it. So the same way you will be having something called as CL underscore DD underscore document. It is used to upload your logos header as well as your footer. The same way reuse underscore ALV underscore what is that? What is that function module? I forgot the function module. So if I go to SE38, so let me open block list, hierarchical list display, ALV with the structure. I guess this is the one. So here only we have perform our Reuse ALV grid display events get. This is the one. Reuse ALV commentary, right? So this is the one which we have used for your for adding your logos the top of page as well as your end of page, or and for to print your header printer as well as your logos. Whereas in Oops ABAP we have to use this class to print your top of page, end of page, as well as your logos. So in order to showcase the report in the form of tree sample, we will be using this report output. We will be using this report output, and this CL underscore GUI underscore container. So in ABAP, in Oops ABAP, we have an advantage. Let me open my paint window. That would be better. So now what I'm going to do, this is my container which I have created. So let's take, this is my screen. Let's take, this is my screen. In that screen, you will be designing your container. You will be designing your container. So how much the container you want, you can go ahead and design this. In this container, furthermost also you can able to you can able to split your containers how many parts you want. So that is also possible. Not only multiple reports to be displayed, inside your container also you can able to split and you can display over here the multiple reports. In order to split your main container into multiple containers, we will be using a class called as CL underscore GUI underscore splitter container. Splitter container to split your main container. Now in this, I need to have a container. So in order to display the report in your ALV, we need to have your container. In order to create a container inside your splitter container, we will be using this CL underscore GUI underscore your container. CL underscore GUI underscore your container. So that is the one. So the next one is CL underscore GUI underscore your docking container. So instead of creating a container by yourself, you can ask SAP to go ahead and create a container docking. It will go ahead and dock your container on your screen. You don't need to create your container. SAP will go ahead and create your container. So that is called as your docking container. Now, at the same way, for uploading or downloading, we will be, or providing F4, we will be using a class called as CL underscore GUI underscore front end services. Now this is one more class, simplified ALV. Instead of using these all ALVs, we can just go ahead with one ALV that's called as simplified ALV access model. So in real time, I will be using this class for printing of the output. I'll be using this class. So right now, currently, when you are displaying the data in your output, so this is the one which we will be using it. This is the one which we will be using it. The disadvantage of these, what are the disadvantage? The main disadvantage is we can't able to run this program in the background mode. We can't able to run this in the background mode, in the background mode, because because as we are creating the screen, as we are creating the screen, the screen generation can't able to happen. The screen generation SAP can't able to do it in the background. In the background job, SAP can't able to generate a screen. As I told you, firstly we have to create our output screen. This thing it can't able to do it. To avoid this, and if you want to write down in your classes, we will be using this CL underscore SALV underscore your table. CL underscore SALV underscore your table. That is what. So we can't able to, because whenever we are working on Oops ALV, we need to design the screen. background processor doesn't have an authority to create the screen. In order to design the screen, we need to use a syntax called as call screen. In order to design the screen, we have to use a syntax called as your call screen. Once you double click on your screen number, it will go to a screen painter, which is nothing but your SE51, where you have to design your screen. When we create a screen, SAP will generate your four function modules. Four modules. So this we have already seen on your module pool programming. So I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm not going to discuss about that. So now, what are the reports we are going to see on your OOPS ALV? The major reports we are going to see is OOPS ALV with a structure. In the same way, reuse ALV with a structure, ALV with a field catalog, OOPS ALV with the top of page, end of list and logo, ALV with events. So like your double click or like that, and splitting of your screen into multiple ALVs to display multiple ALVs, and then tree ALV, and then we are going to see the docking container. So these are the reports which we are going to see on your when we are working on your OOPS ALV. So now coming to the first one. So I have created everything in the form of your classes style. How you have to create in the form of your classes style. So that I am going to see showcase you. For the very first report, I'll be writing it in the normal way, and then ALV with the field catalog. This I am going to write down with your. So how we are going to see. So ALV with the structure. So I will be going to create a class. I'll create a class in SE24, and I will I'll try to use that class. I'll try to use that class in our programming. In our programming, I'm going to use that class. Now, ALV with field catalog, ALV with field catalog. I'll create a local class. I'll create a local class and I'll add the methods. And I'll use those in the same program. So this I'm going to show you the real-time format. How we are going to work on your real-time format. So that I'm going to showcase you for this one. I'm going to showcase you. So I might be using this program. I might be using this program for writing our logic, for filling of our internal table and everything. I'll be using this program. So now let's get started. The first and the foremost thing is we are going to see the ALV with field catalog. So the first and the foremost thing is, so let me go ahead and create SE24. So GCL underscore 7am. So ALV with the structure. Let me go ahead and click on create. I'll go ahead and say ALV with the structure. So I'm going to take this as final class. So once we select this, we can't able to use that in our inheritance. When you select this, we can't able to use that in our inheritance. Let me click on save. I'm going to save that in our package as well as in our TR. Now TR, I'm going to keep it that. So now once you showcase this, so before that, what's my requirement? My requirement is I want to display the data. So requirement, I want to display the data, of EKKO table. So let me take this. EKKO entire table I want to display, or I want to display the data of first 100 records or 1000 records of my EKKO table. So now what is the first thing? We need to have our internal table. So for this, I'm going to, you can go ahead and create in your types declarations, or you can directly go ahead and create in your attributes. You can go ahead and create in your attributes. If you see here, you can able to see type a reference to. So in your writing it your type, you need to provide your table type. We need to provide your table type. So that's our, so I'm going with my types declaration as of now. So I'll just show you how can we utilize that one in your method parameters. In your method parameters, you can able to see that. So in the next, when we are designing that in your local, I will try to use my attributes. I'll try to use the attributes. So now the first one is, so what is that? So I'll just go ahead and say GTT underscore. So global table type EKKO. I'm just going to take the visibility, whatever the visibility you want, public, private, or protected. I'm going to take this as private, and associated type EKKO underscore your T. Okay, let me go ahead and check. So what is the table type? So I'm just going to have my EKKO. I'll just click on my values list. So I'll just remove this one. I'll go ahead and select. I'll just deselect everything. I'll just select the table types. I'll just click on enter. So this is your table type TTY, EKKO underscore your TTY. So whichever you want, you can just go ahead and use that. Or else you can go here inside this, and whatever the fields you want, you can just go ahead and mention that over here. The types declaration, how you will be doing it in your normal way, so that you can go ahead and mention it over here. So once you have done it, come to your methods. So any input you want, so just provide. So get PO underscore data. So I'm going to take this as visibility as level as instance method. So now the visibility as public. So because we are going to use that in our program, this method we have to go ahead and use our program. So whatever the methods you are going to use in your program, make them as your public, and remaining everything you have to keep it as your private. Even the data declarations also, whatever you are going to use that in your SE38 programming, you have to keep that in your public. So remember that when you are creating a class, when we are creating a class, so whatever the methods which we will use in the SE38 program, or which we will be using outside the class, keep them as public, and remaining everything we need to keep it as private, keep it as either private or private or protected. So when you will be using your private, use the private, and when we will use the protected, when we will be using the private, and when we will be using your protected. So if we select the class as final, select the class as final. So in the attributes of your class, so let me go to your my attributes or properties of my class. So when we select the properties as final, so that we have shown you, so this one, this checkbox, then create it, create create the methods as private, create the methods as your private. When when we are not selected, then it's your responsibility, or it's the ABAP responsibility to provide either the method should be a private or a protected. The method should be the private or the protected, either the private or you're protected. So you have to provide it. It's our responsibility to keep it. So if you are going to inherit this class in your sub child classes, then you have to keep it as protected. If you are not going to inherit, then we will be keeping it as private, by simple those words. So you have to remember. So this method, what I am going to use, this method I am going to use that in outside of my class. So I have keep that as my public. So now in my parameters, I'll be going with my parameters. I'll be just taking this as et underscore ekko, the exporting parameter, and I'm going to have my gtt underscore ekko. My gtt underscore your ekko. Let me activate this one. I'm just activating this one. So you will be getting an error. So why? Because the gtt underscore ekko is a private variables, is a private. Why? So I want to showcase this error. So that's the reason I just keep that as your private. So why? So in SAP, while executing the program in SAP, when executing the class, SAP will first check in your public. SAP will check in the public session, followed by protected, followed by and followed by private, followed by private. So this is the one which SAP will do it. So SAP will check it in public session, followed by your protected, as well as followed by your private. So this is the thing. So now, where we kept your method, we kept the method in the public session. But where my types declaration are in my private. So the public session directly can't able to access your private. So if the private is at the starting, then SAP knows it. Okay, so this is already available. After your public session, it is checking the private session. Till the time the private session variables are not yet initialized. So that means the memory has not yet been provided to this private. So that's the reason it is showing that as invalid. So if I take this as private, let me go ahead and take this as private. So now when I click on check, now see here, no issues, because so this private method is available. If you go to your source based editor, see here on your public session, first one, then your protected session, then your private session. In that private session we have your types, and after that we are going to use your method. So now when we want to do that in your public, so this is not available when you do my pretty printer, and when I click on check, so this is not available. When I go ahead and keep that in my public, then SAP will allow you. Even you can do that in your GUI, or you can able to do that in your source code based editor also. Nothing will happen. So SAP automatically will changes the sessions and everything. SAP automatically changes. Now this is what you have to remember. So by this you can know where you need to keep our variables. So whether you need to keep that in your public, private, or protected, or I mean where exactly we have to keep it. So in real time, I would always do it in real time. I'll always keep my types declaration in public session only. In public session only, we will always keep that in your public session. So I won't be doing that. We are not going to keep that in your protected or your private. So because this is the starting on your, when you're writing your code in the traditional way, when you're writing the code, the first thing is we will be creating your types declaration, and then which we will be doing it in your top include. So the main include. So then we will be creating your data declarations, right? So those two things we will be doing it in your top include. So as we are writing in your top include, so keep that always in your public. So data declarations, we might be doing it or we might not doing this in over here. We might be doing it or we might not. So this types declaration, you have to always keep that in your top include only. Remember that. So this is the first step you have to always remember when you're working on your oops ABAP. So now I'll just go ahead and activate this one. It will just go ahead and activate. And now in over here, the method implementation, you can able to do it or go back. I'll be doing it from a GUI. So now click on your source code. The same thing will be showcased. So here you will be seeing your signature parameters, whatever the inputs and whatever the outputs, as we already discussed this on your oops ABAP. So these are the inputs. So now I'm going to say select star or select star from EKKO into table at the rate et underscore EKKO up to, I'm going to take this as 1000 rows. So the first 1000 rows I want. So that's it. I have displayed my method. Now do your pretty printer and let's get activate your table. Let's get activated. So now inside this, if you want, you can write your everything like your ALV container and everything. You can able to write that, or you can be able to write that in your ALV. And remember that when you are working on your oops ALV, the display part, we will never keep in SE24 class. Why? So why we will be creating our SE24 global class? So mainly for your reusability. Reusability purpose, we will be creating it. So the display will be differ from one program to another program. So that's the main reason we will never kept. But when you are writing in SE38, when you are writing in SE38, we will also keep the display part in our local class. We'll also keep the display part in the local class itself. Why? That that local class is only used for in this SE38. When you think that the class which we are going to use will only be utilized in that one program, then put everything in your class itself. The entire logic, the steps of your entire logic has to be created in one separate methods, each and every one separate methods, like create container, like this, and then create display ALV. Like this, you have to put it. But this global class, we might be using that in our in other so many classes. We will be never keeping that the display part over here. We'll be never keeping that the display part in this. So this is the thing which you need to remember. Now I'll just go ahead and create my program SC38. So the local, so GR7AM oops ALV with structure. Oops ALV with the structure. Let me click on create. Oops ALV with the structure. I'll be going to take this as executable program. Let me click on save and everything. So here when you guys are writing, you have to write down with your includes. So no standard page heading. So this is common, and you need to write your top include and everything. So that I will be going to showcase you in your ALV with the field catalog. In that I am going to show you how you will be writing that. I'll be writing entirely in our classes format only. So I'll be calling that. So now the first thing is I'm going to use my initialization method. Just give me 1 minute, guys. To use this initialization method. So where I will go ahead and initialize the global class, the class which we have created. We have created in SE24. So what is that class? Data LO underscore, sorry, GO underscore OBJ. GO underscore OBJ is equal to new GCL underscore. What is the class? So this is the one. I'm just copying this class. So I'll be just pasting this one. So I have initialized. So creating of your object reference and everything. So with the help of your new syntaxes, we are going to see that one. So the next one is my start of selection. So once we go ahead into start of selection, the first step, what is our first step? We need to create our screen, output screen. So the first step is always you need to create call screen, and what is the screen number. So you have to use the 9000 series, the 9000 series. This is the first step, you have to do it. Now double click on this one, click on yes, yes. It will go to your module pool programming, the module pool screen, or the screen painter, or your screen painter. So here from your SE38 we have provided. So now, or else let me go to /o SE51. It will call as your screen painter. Here you have to provide your program name. You have to provide your program name, and then just provide your screen number 9000. Let me go ahead and click on create. The same thing. So whether you can go ahead and do it from your study aid, or whether you can come here and you can do it over here, both are the same. So now I'm just double clicking on this. So I'll just say this as oops ALV. And now in the layout, so I'm just going to design my layout. So the first thing is here the container. So this is our container, custom control. This is our container. So this one you have to take it and you have to draw till the last, how much length you want, the first container. And if you want, you can just go ahead and design your second container. You want, you can go ahead and design your third container. Like this, you can go ahead and design how many containers you want. You can just go ahead and design that one. So how many containers you want? As of now, I'm going to have only one container. I'll just delete this one. I'll also create one more container with from starting to ending. I'll just go ahead and create that one. So now, if you want, you can able to increase the sizes like this with the help of your mouse pointer also. So I have designed my container, entire container I have designed. So you have to provide the name of your container. I'll just going to say this as gc underscore cont container. So this container, you have to use that in your program. So now close this one. I'll just closing this one too. Now I'm going to my flow logic. So you have to enable your output as well as your user command. So now I'm going to design this. Yes. So in my main program only, I'm just going to design this one. So now let me go back, and after input also I'm just going to design my user command. Yes. So in this I have to write down. Now here we need to go ahead and call our method, whatever the method you have. So the first one is get the data from EKKO table. Get the data from your EKKO table. So that you have already created. So what is my method? GO underscore OBJ. What is the method? So you will be having get PO data. So here I'll just go ahead and write data of GT underscore EKKO, the inline declarations. So you don't need to create your data declarations directly. You can go ahead and write your inline declarations itself. You can go ahead and write your inline declarations. Now you got your data. So the main data has been come up. So then what is the next one? We need to write down the logic in PBO. I have written down the logic. Now we need to create our container. In order to create our container, the second step is we need to create the container. So in order to design the container, so you have to write data go underscore cont is equal to new cl underscore gui underscore custom container. New cl underscore gui underscore your custom container. So these are all your mandatory parameters which you have to provide this. So when you are providing this container, so in this container, if I go inside this one, you will be having your where is this where is this Yeah, see, you will be having your constructor. So for this constructor, you will be having your parameters. So that parameters, it is going to showcase you over here. If you see these parameters, parent, container name, style, and everything. So that it will be going to showcase over here, parent, container name, style, and everything. So the parameters which are there in your container, so that will be showcasing this over here. So you have to pass your parameters. So now here I need to pass my container name. What is my container name which I have created? GC underscore your container. GC underscore the container. So this is the one you need to provide this. So the first step when you go into your oops ALV, so we will be doing the first step the same thing. So method and now call screen, and now here I have used the old style of writing it, but here I'm going to showcase you your new style. So now when you are writing this, you just remove the everything, and now you also you need to remove the unwanted thing. So this is the one. If the container is not available, so that means if size about c is not equal to 0, so you will be having your exceptions. So why it's not showing your exceptions? Its exceptions also it has to showcase you. Here the exceptions are also showcase you. If size about c is not equal to 0, so now here you need to write your message. You need to write your message, or you can write this syntax. You can remember this syntax, guys. This is very important. So it will take the system message ID. So from the system, the direct system variables you are asking to display that message in that same format. So that is the one you have to do it. So now I have created my container. Now I need to initialize the ALV grid. The ALV grid, for that, I'll just go ahead and say GO underscore ALV. I'll be taking this as new CL underscore GUI underscore ALV grid. So this is the one. So here also you have to provide your parent container. That parent container is nothing but this one. So now I'm going to say go underscore your cunt, and remaining everything I don't need it. So I'm just going to remove that one. If size sub rc is not equal to 0, or you can write this as go underscore cunt is not bound. Is not bound, that means is initial. This is the one we have to use it. So in a same way, if GO underscore ALV is not bound. Is bound is nothing but it has a memory. Is not bound is nothing but it doesn't create a memory. So that's it. Now, once we have initialized it, it's time for me to display the data in the ALV. It's time for me to display. So the same thing, object, ALV, container, and message. Now I have got my data. So that data I have already initialized at the starting. Either you can do it over here, so or you can get the data. So we have got the data into my internal table. Now it's time for me to display the data. So to display the data, I'll be writing go underscore ALV. I'll be taking this as set a table for my first display. Set a table for my first display. Now here you need to provide your table name, gt underscore ekko EKKO. Now here you need to call your structure name. What is my structure name? EKKO. So this is my structure. Anything else you want to provide it, you can just provide that one. You can just provide that one. Or if you don't, if you are not going to provide, just remove everything. Just remove everything. So now I'm just going to remove this one. Exporting parameter, I need it. So changing, I don't need this anything anymore. Exceptions, you always need to raise this, and then you need to provide this one to exceptions. Now do your pretty printer. So that's it. Now I'll just activate my code. My code got activated. So let me do this. Sorry, let me do this. I'll also activate at the program level. So to activate your screen also, DynPro also I'm trying to activate. Now when I click on execute, it will be showcasing you the report in your container. This is your container, and in that this is your ALV. In that this is your ALV. The entire ALV has been displayed in the form of your container. In the form of your container, the entire ALV has been displayed. So this is the one you have to do it when you are working on your ALV. So here the back button, everything is not there. To do achieve that back button, so this also I didn't show you in your module pool. I'm going to showcase you over here. To do this, so you need to set up your PF status. So now I'm going to say this as my menu. So now double click on this, click on yes. Yes, it will go to your menu painter. Menu. So here I'll be just assigning my back button, and I'll be assigning by, what is this, exit, and this one is cancel. So this already available. So if you want, you can just provide that one, or if you don't want, just remove that one. Now click on save, go back, and let me activate the program for one more time. I'll also try to activate from the main also one more time, so that GUI status has to be gets activated. So now I have activated. Now when I click on execute, it will display the report. When I click on back, we don't have any action. So this logic where I need to write in my PAI, this logic I need to write in my PAI. So now I'll be just going to SE38 again. So click on change. In my PAI, I need to write down. So case on SciUcom. Case on SciUcom. When we click on back button, leave list processing. Leave list processing. When we click on when others, so other than that back and everything, when we click on others, I'll be just writing the exit. Now let me activate. So now when I click on execute, so when I click on back, why it's not working? So let me do a debug point over here, slash and SE38. So let me put a breakpoint over here. It has to work, but it's not working. So I'll put a breakpoint over here. Let me click on execute. When I click on back button, my ABAP debugger has been started. Case SIUCOM went back. So it's not list processing. I'll be just writing to leave to screen 0. C38, or else I'll just go ahead and write your exit only. I'll just go ahead and write your exit only here also. The leave to list that I'm going to showcase you in your tomorrow's session. So now when I click on execute, when I click on back, so now when I say F8, it will just come out from your program. So here it's not working. It has to come out from your program, or let me write down one more step. Leave list processing. So this is the one only I have written, right? Or I have written leave list processing. So now do your pretty printer and let's get activate your code. Let me click on execute. So when I click on back and when I say this as execute, it will come to your program. So here it's not working, the back commands, and it's not working everything. So that's not working, but it has to work. Leave list processing, it will work. That for sure. Maybe some error in this program, in this system, it is not working, but it has to work. Oh, why it's not working? So see here, you have written the data already. You have already displayed it is. So after your PAI, it will come back to your PBO. It is coming back to your PBO. So here you need to write down your logic. So what is the logic I will write down? So I'll just show you. So /n SE38. So click on change mode. So what I need to do, if here I have already written, okay, if geo underscore cont is bound, then I will be writing this as your exit. That means already we have the data, so I don't want to showcase the data again. Now I'll activate this one. Okay, Control X. So I'll be writing this again over here. Okay, let me check this. So we have, when we write your leave list processing, for sure it will come out. That's for sure, I know it. So but why it's not working, I don't know. So I need to go ahead and check this one more time. I need to go ahead and check this one more time, or else you can go ahead and have one more global variable and you can able to use that one. You can able to use that one. So this is how you will be writing with your ALV with your structure. LV with your structure. So let me stop the recording. So
This conference will now be recorded.
yeah, so that's it. So that's the end of today's session. So how we have to work with your ALV with your structure, and in tomorrow's class we will be seeing with the ALV with your field catalog. ALV with your field catalog. Okay. So before I signing off for today's session, any questions, guys?
Ravi, do you have any sample set of programs with you which we can go through? Because most
Yeah,
of the times we are
over here.
overriding these programs.
So
Okay,
over
only
here,
referred document, not in the system.
not in the system. So this is the dummy system. I can't able to do. I
Okay,
can't able to let you know.
okay.
Because
Uh,
I mean, not only me, there are so many other students also practicing. They don't know what, we
yeah,
don't know what naming conventions they have been used and everything. So I have
okay,
used the naming conventions as oops so that you can. So that's the reason I always ask you to refer to this one.
okay. All right, well,
Okay,
that's
so
fine because we were trying to go through, and yeah, we'll refer to the document. That's fine then.
okay, so in every document I already pasted the code as well as its output for each and every program. I have done that one. You can go through that.
Okay, fair
Okay.
enough. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I'll be considering it as no questions. So let me stop the recording.